Ian, when it comes to consultants in a state agency, your name is in the top three. You talk to an awful lot of great, awesome estate agents and you train and guide them. What does great customer service look like in the estate agency, considering that we are in a customer service business? Talk to me.
I think primarily it's where the agent has understood to build it from the customer's perspective, not from their own efficiency perspective. So I see an awful lot of businesses that build what they believe is a customer service model, but actually what it is a model to either save them money or to be efficient internally. The customer has to be at the very centre of that process. Does it make the customer's journey better? Does it make them go, wow, at the end of it? Does it make them feel good about you? Because if it doesn't, move on to the next thing. But then to simplify the process, there's a lot of overcomplication in the delivery of what we do. And it just doesn't need to be. I mean, customers are not, they're not that demanding in reality. They just want to be treated properly with transparency, professionally. If you say you're going to call them back, as simple as just call them back.
Give me some examples of what overcomplicating looks like.
There could be overcomplicated requirement for information, or there could be a system where you've already got the detail down in one place, but it doesn't get transferred to another, and you're having to ask the client 2 or 3 times in the process for the address. I'm sure we've all been onto a call centre where, for the 3rd time in the conversation, we're being asked our name or our postcode. I think there's a little bit of that. I think we put too many steps in the process. Particularly, I think it can break down for agents once the property is sold. I think the sales progression process in its entirety is ripe for some form of complete overhaul, both in the conveyancing end and in the estate agency end.
I mean, it's taking the average is about 19 weeks at the moment. When we were whippersnappers, which was a few years ago, it was 8 or 12 weeks. Do you think that's the conveyance's fault, or is that
fault's a strong word. I think the conveyancers, what really annoys me about the conveyancing world is that they have it within their power to completely modernise and overhaul the system. They are protecting the existing system for self-gain. They won't like me for saying it, but they know it's right, I know it's right. They even have people in some of these new government lobby things that I've been on. Their mantra is not to help modernise. They are trying to slow down the change because they're just hanging on to their business models. We all know it's coming. We all know that it's happening. And as soon as we can get to the point where a transaction is binding much quicker in the process, the better.
When you say customer, are we just talking about a vendor and a landlord, or are we talking about the other side, which is your tenant and your buyer?
Look, the landlord and the seller are clearly your contracted clients where your income is derived from, but your buyer and your tenant are your future customers. And I think we owe them a duty of care and respect, whether that be legally or just morally. But the actual customer is clearly the landlord and the seller.
Okay, you go around quite a lot of estate agents. You talk to some of the biggest names. In fact, you mentor some of the biggest names. Give me some examples of what made you go, wow, when it comes to customer service in a estate agency.
I think it's where people do things that are just out of the ordinary. Peter Knight, a friend of mine from when I was at Romans, he taught me about the wow experience and not just. Selling someone's house is not wow. That's what they've employed you to do. Selling it with the bells and the whistles and all of the, but it funnily enough isn't necessarily items that cost money. It's just a state of mind. For example, it could be that a tenant's moving in and there's been a mix-up on redecorating. And I know of people that have been around there on a Saturday night before the moving on a Monday, at their own family time, redecorating the property for somebody. I know people that have turned up in areas of power cut and at their own cost have provided a generator. I know people that have. Now that's just a mindset of just saying, I'm not going to let this slip. There was a cost, a personal cost. Clearly they weren't putting profit or their own time first. They were putting the customers first. And I suspect those customers will repay them many, many times over with referrals or repeat business or both.
Now, if you're going to offer good customer service, you need people to give that service, which is good staff. Now, talking of Peter Knight, I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, and he said that he believed because there's been such a degradation and the fees have been going down, we're not earning enough in the industry to pay enough for good people. Do you think that's the case?
Oh, yes, certainly. I mean, I happen to own a recruitment company, so I can see it all the time. But I mean, I from where I'm stood, I think that the quality The problem we have is that 20 years ago, a estate agency was a way for people that might not have gone the educational route to earn significantly more than people that had. The price they paid was they worked longer hours and they worked some of their weekend time. But because the pay and reward was there, now there are other industries, as the estate agency salary side of things has perhaps slipped backwards, but the time and the workload hasn't.
Yes.
There are other industries that have caught up where, of course, they're now paying more or as much as estate agents, and in some cases more, but you don't have to work weekends or until 7 o'clock at night. So, and maybe the pressures are a little bit less. So we've reached a bit of a sort of point in time where the industry either has to accept that its fees, it cannot protect the fees any longer and has to be more cost effective, but therefore not be a high paid industry, or it needs to go back to its roots, and that is to charge a good fee for a good day's work and employ better people.
But then
train them.
the question comes in is the amount of agents that are pulling their pants down when it comes to fees. And there's plenty of gurus out there that say charge what you're worth. But then you hear, if I had £1 for every time someone said, but that won't work in my town.
Look, I think that comes down to the strength of the lister and the strength of the proposition that's being put forward to the customer. The customer will decide if your fee is good value or not. I genuinely, every piece of research that's ever been done, every piece of evidence I could show you from mystery shopping, the customer is not as focused on the fee as the estate agent is. The customer is focused on trust, honesty, transparency, service, and if there's 0.25% or 0.5% difference, that's not their motivator. The fee argument is created in the mind of the estate agent, and a good lister that might cost a little bit more per annum than a not so good lister is able to either overcome that mindset or just has the mindset of his value in the first place. It's already entrenched in his DNA. So I believe that you charge what you're worth. I think the problem is a lot of estate agents think they're worth more than they actually deliver, and that's a problem. So their fees just drop.
So is that a lack of training? Is that a lack of support, guidance?
All of the above. I think the first thing is leadership. If you are a business owner and you are unhappy about the fees being charged in your business, go out and show your people that it's possible to be done. I have met a number of people that I've subsequently not taken up the offer to work with them because they themselves will not go and...
Yeah, it shocks me the number of bosses that haven't been out with their valuer.
Ever. Or out with their listers, listers, same thing, without their, they haven't gone on an accompanied viewing. They haven't gone and done a listing appointment and allowed somebody to observe them. So I think you'll find the weakness in that case is probably in them and being passed down through the troops, and they've got no chance. Because all they've got is a boss that's saying your fees aren't high enough, but not a boss that can say that this is how you do it. There's no point in telling somebody what they're doing wrong unless you give them the answer. Fees are generally speaking, I think, going up across the sector because as the market toughens, I think that's a natural thing to happen. Transactional volumes mean that if you don't charge more for the privilege, you're economically going to be stressed. So I think they're naturally going up, but I think they're going up out of necessity more than out of any strategy. And of course, it's one thing that I would endeavour to do for most clients would be to take their fee offering and see if we can move it. Because if you can charge more fee off the same transactions, then that makes great business sense, as long as you're worth it. But I do see a lot of people preaching charge what you're worth, and I'm not so sure they put it into their own businesses. So you've got to be careful what you say.
You have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.